for today. And Jenalea would be our moderator for this panel. And yeah, Jenalea, you want to take it away?
Sure, thank you. I was hoping if maybe I could ask Abdoulaye and Elijah to please turn off your cameras if possible, or on your cameras, and then we can begin. While that's happening, I'll get started so we don't lose time. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our industry panel. Today's discussion is about where robotics meets the real world. Across the continent, robotics is no longer only a research topic or a future ambition, and we're seeing practical applications in many sectors. So our panel today brings together industry perspectives on what it actually takes to move from a promising technology to a deployed and scalable solution in the African context. So our first panelist I'd like to introduce is Abdoulaye Faye. He is the co-founder and CTO of CAYTU AI, which is a Senegalese startup pioneering crowdsourced teleoperation for autonomous robotics. Abdoulaye is a technologist working at the intersection of autonomous robotics, AI, and intelligent systems, leading the development of integrated automation solutions across sectors, including utilities, logistics, and hospitality. Through his work at CAYTU, he is driving innovation in how robotics and AI are applied to solve real-world challenges across Africa. Thank you very much for joining our panel today. And then our second speaker is Elijah Ocupualor. He is a Ghanaian engineer, researcher, and technology entrepreneur. He is the co-founder and CTO of 3Farmate, which is an agri-tech company pioneering agricultural automation in Africa, which is best known for Farmer, Ghana's first purpose-built autonomous farming robot designed to automate key farming operations such as planting and spraying while improving productivity and efficiency. He is committed to replacing labor-intensive, costly farming methods with scalable, locally engineered technology that empowers farmers across Ghana and beyond. Thank you, Elijah, for joining us. Lastly, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the CTO of DEI Projects, which is an electrical construction company in South Africa. Previously, I was the AI research lead at Elijah AI, and I'm a co-organizer of the African Robotics Workshop at the Deep Learning Indaba, as well as the Achille African Robotics Community. Great. So I just want to kick off by asking a few questions. Please feel free to jump in wherever necessary, and then I'll ask some more pointed questions later on. So firstly, the report suggests that robotics adoption in Africa is being driven less by labor replacement and more by productivity, safety, access. From your experience, what is the strongest business case for robotics in Africa today? Please, Abdoulaye, if you would like to start.
Hello. Yeah, thank you very much, and all of you for this event and for the organization. Mainly to Kene for inviting me to contribute in such an interesting, I think, initiative that will bring value to the whole ecosystem, definitely. So to answer the first question, and being cautious of the time, I really believe that the barrier to robotic adoption in Africa, and not only in Africa, by the way, isn't really the hardware or the robot itself, but more integration. Companies buy or they pilot a robot, and then they struggle to fit it to their actual processes because they don't have the in-house know-how or the infrastructure to operate them efficiently with confidence. So the robot underserved, underdelivers, and its value to the business gets diluted before it's ever proven. And I believe there are other robotic companies. There are two ways to address it. The first one is to offer them a service that includes the operation itself, like taking over the operation and being able to make sure that they use the robot at its best and make it work. But the only problem is that it works, but the problem with that is it's more difficult to scale. So the second option would be to build actually the infrastructure that will enable them seamlessly to take over this operation and be able to do the job themselves. And that's actually what CAYTU is building. That platform with human in the loop built in that we think is actually the strongest business case for the continent to date, because this is what actually will make robot works. And it's not just a platform. It's not just about teleoperation, and it's more bringing in all the infrastructure with the data. Every deployment comes with data, and that data that drive continuous improvement through time for these businesses. And that means also that the whole processes runs through this platform. And that's why actually we are at the intersection of robotics, AI, IoT, and human, because we bring in the machine, the intelligence, the connectivity that carries the data, but also the judgment that the human and bring as a precision to businesses. And no matter how good autonomy gets, we really believe that that integration, supervision, and improvement layer is something that every deployment needs, and almost no buyer, mostly in the continent, wants to build it themselves.
Thank you, Abdoulaye. Elijah, would you like to add to that, or happy to move on to the next question?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, if I get you right, the question was about what would consider a strong business case for the African industry today. All right, so for me, I think that would be closing the productivity gap. So, for example, farmers here in Africa, right, are producing 1 ton of maize per acre, and equivalent farms in the UX, for example, same 1 acre are producing 11 tons of maize per acre. That's a huge productivity gap. All right. The farmers here aren't working any less than the farmers there are. If nothing at all, the farmers here are working even much more harder than they are. But then they don't have the necessary tools, they don't have the necessary agronomic intelligence to make certain decisions. So at the end of the day, we end up producing a fraction of what's supposed to be produced. So for me, if we're able to close this productivity gap, I believe that will unlock a huge value for us. Because if, say, we capture just 30% or we close 30% of this gap, right? Now, instead of an African farmer producing a ton of maize from his farm, we are looking at, say, 3 tons. That's 30% increase. And this will translate to millions of tons of produce annually. You know, so for me, if we are to consider what a strong business case would be for us, we should close that productivity gap.
Yeah, definitely. And also it's a good way to get governments to invest when you can prove value like that. Actually, this is a good segue to the next question then, specifically for Elijah, but also Abdoulaye, if you would like to add. Given that you created Pharma, what does it take to design robotic solutions that are genuinely fit for the African operating environments instead of importing technologies from Western cultures?
Okay, let me take that. I think it's context, right? We mostly import solutions into country and then adapt them to solve specific problems, right? And then as we try to adapt these solutions, we end up patching problems that should be a design constraint from day one. You get me? Yeah, so these solutions have been designed to fit the context in which they were designed, which I don't think Africa is part of for most cases. But it becomes a necessity for us to, innovate locally when we want to build solutions that are genuinely fit for us. And there are a lot of things to consider. I'll take 3Farmit as an example. When we started, of course, we were able to anticipate certain things regarding context where we are that we could consider. But some too, we had to learn the hard way on the field. But some of the things we had to consider was the environment in which we are operating, right? That's one. We could have chosen to build Pharma, which is our flagship product, by the way. We could have built the technology around GPS. That would have been very easy. But we live in a country or a continent where majority or most farming happens in rural areas where there is no electricity and there is poor network connectivity, not to talk about stable internet. So if we had built a solution around GPS, for example, would have a solution that's useless in some cases because we'll end up serving farmers who have kind of GPS access or connectivity on their farms. And that also defeats the purpose of us trying to make our technology accessible to every farmer. So that was one thing we had to consider. And then two, we had to also find out what was negotiable and non-negotiable to the farmers. Okay. So the smallholder farmers we work with, they work with manual labor, yes. They used to work with manual labor. They clearly understand the benefits of using farm machinery, but then they are not doing that. Reason being that these machineries are very expensive. So should we, as an engineer, I'd love to build, a platform with the latest technology, the latest LiDAR, the depth cameras and everything. I would love to do that as an engineer. But then would that genuinely address the problem? Would that genuinely be the best solution for the farmers? Right? So through that, we realize that cost is a huge factor. It's the only thing that's preventing them from accessing farm machinery in the first place. So that's non-negotiable, right? So yeah, all these things ended up helping us to build a more affordable platform or solution that's also modular, cutting down on costs and then reducing the entry barrier for them. So I think context is the key. Context, building solutions that fit our context.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Then I would also like to ask Abdoulaye for CAYTU specifically. Your vision is crowdsourced teleoperation to support autonomous robots with human-guided precision. You did touch on it a bit earlier, but in African markets where infrastructure, connectivity, and technical skills can vary so widely, how can teleoperation help bridge the gap between full autonomy and practical deployment?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. And yeah, I definitely think that we are in a space now in robotics that is moving very fast with all the recent advances in AI. And Africa has to know its strengths and build and capitalize on around it. And I think our strength is demographics. We have the youngest and fastest growing workforce in the world. So we really believe that we need to give to this young population the tools they need to take over the world and be able to take their place in this whole ecosystem. So that's why actually we are building this this infrastructure that will enable them to connect and teleoperate. But it's not just limited to that, because teleoperation, we can see like the best way, one of the best way to collect the data, valuable data, experience data, and operational data for the advanced and robotic training is teleoperation. So the vision have been always that allowing people in the continent to be able to access to the technologies through this interface is a way for us to capitalize in it by leveraging the data and contributing to the future of autonomy, the next generation of autonomy. And I think that's actually where we can really build something that put us in the game on in the future contribution of robotic and AI in general, and the whole industry revolution that is happening right now. So to summarize on that, I just think that we have a young population, and this population is a potential energy. But what is important is how do we convert this energy to an actual asset that will benefit to us and enable to open up opportunities to a young generation, but not just opportunities, but allow them to contribute to the future of these technologies.
Yeah, that's great. And not have to leave their countries to do so, which we see so often.
Exactly. And so definitely the value being able to remain here and also leveraging this to also capitalize on this and build the solutions that are proper to us, because also that's what experience brings. The capability to react, to get inspired and be able to contribute to create a solution for the continent.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Sorry, I see a question has come through on the chat, so it's a bit different to what we had planned, but I would like to ask, how are you in your companies navigating the talent and skills gap in building your technology? And are you having challenges with this? Elijah, would you like to go first?
Okay. So for the talent and skills gap, it's a bit tricky in our part. So here's one thing. I think it all comes down to your ability. I'm taking it from a personal perspective, that's from family's perspective. It all comes down to your ability to acquire and then retain the talent, right? Already we don't have a lot robotics engineers in the country. The very few that we have are either looking forward to moving to a different country, say the US or Canada, for a high-paying job. We don't have enough. It's just a very few communities, a very few people. So now, what can you offer for them to stay and work with you? Like, what's that unique thing you can give to them for them to, say, yes, I'm staying with you? That's like the issue for us right now. Yeah. So, your ability to acquire and retain the talent.
Yeah. Is that more like a funding perspective as well? You obviously can't offer them the same salaries that a US company would offer.
Yeah, so for us to be able to, retain these things, it all comes down to funding. If you are a company, you have the funding, you have the capital, keep, operating, you have all the resources you need. Acquiring them shouldn't be an issue. But then in our part of the world, tech financing, especially hardware tech financing, is very difficult.
Yes, true. Abdoulaye, do you have anything you want to add to that question about navigating the skills gap?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very important question, and I definitely relate with Elijah here. So a particularity of CAYTU is my co-founder, Sidindao, is actually the founder of an engineering school in Senegal. So we have that's kind of an advantage because we have this potentially to source talent early on and be able to actually train them through their experience at school. But that came with trade-off, obviously, because if you have to train your talent, it means that you will be progressing very slower than your competitor that is able of getting the best talent around the world. And I agree that today getting back the talent here in the continent isn't easy. And one of the reasons is funding, obviously. But I think also we need more wins in the ecosystem as companies. And by wins, I mean every initiative that shapes, every solution that works is giving actually a proof to investor, to talent, that if they want to pursue a career in robotics in Africa, there are examples. There are some great success stories. And I think that should be, as pioneers in this industry, I think that should be our main objective, being able to inspire the next generation of entrepreneur and innovator in this. And I think there are a lot of initiatives like this event that are contributing to that. And of course, it's not easy, but at our scale, we are trying to do and to progress, maybe slowly. But I think that's a trade-off. That's a trade-off today as pioneer. This is something we are okay to take on us, hoping that we will contribute enough so that it will get easier for the next generation.
Just have to leave it better than you found it. That's the goal. And then I see we just have one more question that's come through. They've asked, I would like to ask, what advice would you give to somebody planning to create a startup in robotics in Africa? Like fundraising, finding clients, do state financial supports? Anybody can answer. I don't know. Elijah, would you like to go? And then Abdoulaye can follow.
For fundraising, I think I don't know if it's the same case across the continent, but fundraising, hardware, or trying to go into robotics, it's difficult, right? Our local VC funds are optimized for SaaS businesses and not necessarily hardware or robotics businesses. So it's a little bit challenging. Those SaaS optimized funds, they are more like something for quick returns, higher margins, quick returns. But robotics isn't like that. And you probably have to end up looking outside the country or the continent for funding opportunities. So it's not easy, especially in Ghana. I don't know if that's the same case for Faye in his country, but Yeah, that's the reality on the ground. It's not easy. Yes, we see startups like Terra Industries or Terra Haptics raising millions of dollars and all that, but majority of all those funds are coming from outside. So if you want to start a startup in robotics or hardware, you need to be geared up.
Do you find the situation the same, Abdoulaye, in Senegal?
Yeah. So yeah, no, I definitely think it's the same case. I think it's we can even generalize this to the whole continent. I think if you look at all the investment around the continent, there are some good sign that showing us it's potentially changing now. But like as Elijah said, that's what the investors are looking for right now. Hardware is hard. That's what is said, right? Because to build hardware, it's long, really years of R&D to be able to maturate these technologies and being able to have them working in the ground. And that's why I think also we don't have the luxury that we would have in the other part of the world to build the robots that are not actually useful, that are not a real need, that are not solving real problem for our continent. But what I would honestly advise to someone that would like to build a company, the robotics, is just to be resilient and not hesitate to figure out different revenue stream that will allow him to sustainably progress in his R&D through time. Even it will take time, potentially. This is how it is now. We're hoping that it will change in the coming years. We believe that it will change in the coming years. But let's not be afraid to jump in, because if everybody did the same, we wouldn't actually even progress enough so that the next generation could believe in it. And that's not the goal here. So it's possible, it's hard, but that shouldn't, like, everything is hard. Like even the guy that are raising billions of dollars, it's hard for them too. So just jump in. If you have the skills to do it, just go, and hopefully things will get better in the near future.
Thank you. Yeah, that's such inspiring words. Well, nothing worth doing is ever easy. That's what they say. I'm sorry.
Add something to what he said.
Oh, sorry, Elijah. I have to move on now because we're running into the next panel. But if you could please post it in the chat, then people can continue on the thread. Thank you. But thank you so much both for being part of this panel. It's been such an interesting discussion. And for anybody who wants to contact them, we have posted their LinkedIn accounts in the chat. I need to move on now, though, to the talent and workforce panel, and that's going to be moderated by Baga, who's part of the team. Thank you again.